I'm 28 years old, and right now, I'm sitting on the hardwood floor of my tiny Brooklyn apartment, surrounded by half-open boxes, a noisy radiator, and the lingering smell of roasted coffee drifting up from the cafe downstairs. The lights from the city stretch across my window in long, shaky streaks, like someone dragged neon paint across glass. It feels messy, chaotic, beautiful, kind of like my life. Thanks for watching today. Please like, comment, and share. Don't forget to subscribe so you will be the first to get notifications each time I upload new stories. It's wild to think that a year ago, I didn't feel alive at all. A year ago, I thought love had destroyed me. Completely. Irreversibly. I didn't think I'd ever find my way back to myself. But here I am now speaking into a camera, telling my truth, and somehow, people listen. People care. If you told me back then that thousands of strangers would one day find comfort in my story, I wouldn't have believed you. I couldn't even comfort myself at the time. I didn't come to New York to start over in a glamorous, inspirational way. That wasn't the plan. I didn't pack my bags with ambition pulsing through my veins. No. I came here because I felt empty. Because I needed to remember who I was outside of someone else's shadow. This story, it's not a motivational speech. It's the truth about how I lost myself, how one person tried to erase me, and how, without even meaning to, I went global. It all began when I was 23. I met him in a bookstore. That sounds like the beginning of a cute romantic movie, right? But trust me, the ending wasn't cute. He walked in on a rainy Thursday, the kind of rain that taps against the windows like it has something to say. I was shelving books, half distracted, when I felt someone standing behind me. I turned around and saw a man, dark hair that looked messily intentional, grayish eyes that seemed tired, like he hadn't slept well in days, and a posture that screamed both confidence and collapse at the same time. He smiled at me in this slow, careful way. "You look like you know what you're doing," he said. I remember raising a brow. "I work here." "Perfect," he said, "because I don't know what I'm looking for." I laughed. I shouldn't have. But that laugh was the beginning of something that would take me years to untangle myself from. He bought a book, a random one. I'm almost certain he didn't even read it. He asked for my number. And that same night, he texted small talk at first, then deeper things. He asked about my dreams, my fears, my childhood. I'd never met someone who wanted to dissect my soul on the first night. And at 23, I mistook intensity for honesty. I mistook emotional hunger for connection. He made me feel seen, wanted, important. And when you've spent your whole life being quiet, being the reliable one, the one no one really notices, being seen feels like magic. But here's the thing. Sometimes the people who make you feel chosen are really choosing you because they see softness they can shape. They see kindness they can take advantage of. They see empathy they can drain. The beginning was beautiful. Or at least it felt that way. He'd pick me up after work. We'd drive up into the hills, windows down, talking like we'd known each other forever. He'd tell me I understood him, that he'd never met someone like me. That, I made him feel less alone. And I let myself believe it. But slowly, so slowly, I barely noticed the atmosphere shifted. He wanted more of my time. Then, all of my time. Then he'd frown when I hung out with friends. Call me repeatedly if I didn't pick up. Ask questions that didn't sound like questions, but tests. And the strangest part? Every time I tried to address it, he had a way of flipping the script so subtly I'd walk away feeling like the problem. If I didn't care, I wouldn't worry. "You're misunderstanding me. I just love you too much." That last line, God, it hooked me. Because what woman doesn't want to be loved deeply? But there's a difference between deep love and possessiveness disguised as passion. He'd get upset if I didn't text fast enough. Upset if I wore something he thought was too much. Upset if I spent time with anyone he considered a distraction. He never yelled, never slammed doors. He used disappointment like a weapon, calm guilt like a leash. And every time I tried to step back, he'd pull me in with apologies, flowers, "I'm nothing without you," and long, emotional messages that made me feel like his entire world. Being someone's whole world sounds romantic until you realize it means you're also their cage. There was one night, a night that etched itself into my memory like a scar. I went to a house gathering with two girlfriends. Just wine, music, and laughter. Nothing out of line, nothing shady. I texted him, "I'm going out with the girls. I'll call you later." Simple. But while I was there, my phone kept buzzing. Once, twice, 10 times. 23 missed calls. 23. When I finally called him back, his voice was low, wounded, and angry in that quiet, dangerous way. "You don't care about me. You don't respect me. I'm worried sick, and you're having fun." And instead of saying, "You're overreacting," I said, "I'm sorry." Because emotional manipulation doesn't show up wearing a villain mask. Sometimes it shows up with soft eyes and trembling hands, whispering that it's just scared of losing you. And I believed him. I stayed. I always stayed. The months turned into years. 3 years. 3 years of slowly shrinking myself. 3 years of bending my wants to fit his comfort. 3 years of making myself smaller so he would feel bigger. 3 years of convincing myself that his love was intense because it was real. I stopped painting, stopped writing, stopped wearing bright colors because he said they were loud, stopped going out because it worried him, stopped laughing loudly because he said it sounded childish. Little by little, I stopped being Linda. And then one day, he left, not with a fight, not with drama, not with explanations. I came home, walked into our apartment, and instantly felt something wrong. The air felt too still, too quiet. I went to the bedroom and saw half his closet empty, his drawers open, his toothbrush gone, his cologne missing from the counter. On the kitchen table, there was a single note. "I need space. Don't look for me." Just like that. 3 years of sacrifice, of emotional labor, of bending myself into knots to make him comfortable. Gone in a single sentence. He blocked me on everything. Phone, Instagram, email, everything. I dropped to the floor, right there in the kitchen, and cried so hard I couldn't breathe. It felt like grief, like mourning a death. Except the person I was mourning was still alive, just choosing not to know me anymore. Those next months felt like walking through fog. I'd go to work, plaster on a smile, serve customers at the bookstore, then come home and fall apart. I felt empty, invisible, like my soul had stepped out of my body and forgotten to come back. My friends tried to help, but heartbreak is something you survive alone, even when you're surrounded. One night, months later, I couldn't sleep. The apartment felt too quiet, too hollow. I opened my laptop, just to distract myself. But instead of scrolling, I opened a blank document. My hands hovered over the keyboard. And before I even understood what I was doing, I started writing. Not about him, not even about the breakup. I wrote about me, about how lost I felt, about how I'd abandoned myself trying to love someone else, about how love isn't supposed to suffocate you, about how heartbreak forces you to face the version of yourself you ignored. The words poured out of me like a dam had broken. I wrote for hours, then days, then weeks, and eventually, writing didn't feel like enough. I wanted to speak. So one night, I picked up my phone and recorded a video. Just talking, raw, unfiltered, no makeup, hair messy, eyes still swollen from crying. I talked about heartbreak the way it really feels, not the poetic kind, the kind that floors you, the kind that embarrasses you, the kind that makes you question your worth. I uploaded it. I went to sleep. And the next morning, my phone was exploding. The video went viral. 2 million views overnight. Comments from women all over the world saying, "That's my story. I felt this in my bones. Thank you for being honest. Please don't stop talking." For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel alone. My pain had become someone else's comfort. My truth had become someone else's clarity. And for the first time since the breakup, I felt something new. Purpose. That tiny spark inside me, the one he tried so hard to dim, it flared back to life. A few weeks later, on a random afternoon, I applied for a job in New York. On impulse, not expecting anything, but I got it. So I packed my life into boxes, left Portland behind, and moved across the country. New York welcomed me with noise, chaos, and the kind of anonymity that feels freeing. Which brings us back to today. Me, on the floor, camera in front of me, heart on display, telling my story to people who care. They wanted me gone. He wanted me erased. My past wanted me small. But instead, I went global. My voice traveled farther than his love ever did. My healing reached people he'll never meet. My story grew louder than the silence he left me in. And the wildest part? He came back. Not immediately. Not when I was crying. Not when I was broken. He came back when the world started listening to me. When my voice grew stronger. When women all over the world began quoting me, thanking me, supporting me. That part of the story, the chapter where he returns, oh, that's where everything becomes complicated. Very complicated. But we'll get there. I didn't expect him to come back. In fact, I was certain he never would. By the time I moved to New York, I had trained myself to stop looking for his name on my phone, stop hoping for closure, stop waiting for apologies that were never going to come. I'd even convinced myself that if he ever tried to reach out again, I'd be unmoved, strong, healed, ready to slam the door in his face. But grief has a way of teaching you lies about your own strength. So the day he finally did come back, my heart didn't react the way I thought it would. I remember the moment perfectly. It was a chilly morning in early spring April in Brooklyn, that awkward time when the sun shines like it's warm but the wind says otherwise. I had slept in that day because I'd been up late editing a video. My phone buzzed twice, then stopped. I assumed it was junk mail or some random notification, but then it buzzed again, and again, and again. I reached for it, still half asleep, and saw 3 missed calls from an unfamiliar number. I ignored them. Then a message came through. Linda, it's me. I froze. My heart dropped so fast it felt like someone had unplugged me from gravity. I stared at the message for a full minute, unable to breathe, unable to think, unable to decide if I should throw my phone across the room or fling myself out the window. Another message came. Please don't ignore me. I need to talk to you. I turned the phone face down, like that would somehow make him disappear. But memories don't vanish because a screen is flipped. Voices don't mute themselves because you changed cities. Ghosts don't stop haunting you simply because you moved into a different apartment. My hands were shaking. My chest was tight. It felt like being yanked back into an old version of myself, a version I thought I'd left behind for good. I didn't know what to do. Ignore him? Block him? Reply? Laugh? Cry? Scream? Instead, I just sat there on my unmade bed, staring at the sunlight on my wall, feeling the weight of a past I wasn't ready to revisit. Then the phone buzzed again. Please. I just need one conversation with you. One conversation. That phrase hit me in the chest, because I had begged for just one conversation once. Begged for explanations. Begged for closure. And he gave me none. So why should he get what he denied me? I didn't answer. Not immediately. Instead, I dragged myself out of bed, made a cup of coffee, opened my window, and stared at the city. Down below, the cafe owner was sweeping the sidewalk. A couple argued playfully near a parked car. A dog barked at a pigeon. Life was happening normal, steady, grounded. My life, a life I built without him. And yet, there he was, knocking on the door of a chapter I'd already finished writing. I finally typed out a reply. What do you want? I didn't add his name, didn't add a greeting, didn't soften anything. He replied instantly. I'm in New York. My stomach twisted. Of all the places he could have been, why here? I typed, why? His answer was a bomb dropped into my morning. I came here for you. I sat down, slowly, like my legs had forgotten how to hold me up. I read the message 5 times, each time feeling a different emotion flare inside me. Confusion, anger, disbelief, fear, curiosity. Another message? Please, just meet me, one time. I didn't respond. Not for minutes, not for hours. I went about my day pretending his words didn't slip under my skin like needles. I showered, got dressed, wrapped my hair in a loose bun, sat at my desk to edit a new video titled, Healing Looks Ugly Before It Gets Beautiful. But I couldn't focus. My mind kept replaying his voice. His apologies, his excuses from years ago. Where was this coming from? Why now? What did he want? Around 4 p.m., I finally sent him a message. Where are you? He gave me the name of a coffee shop in Manhattan, one of those upscale, minimalist places where the chairs are uncomfortable on purpose to discourage people from lingering too long. It wasn't far from my job. It wasn't far from my apartment either. Maybe he planned it that way. I told myself I was only going to hear him out, that I owed it to myself, not to him. That it wasn't about closure, it was about reclaiming the part of me that still clenched whenever his name resurfaced. So I agreed. I can meet you at 6. His reply came instantly. Thank you. Those 2 words. They felt wrong, heavy, loaded. By 5:30, I was pacing around my apartment, debating canceling. My chest felt tight. My palms were sweaty. I kept checking myself in the mirror, not because I wanted to impress him, but because I wanted to look like a woman he no longer had access to. I wore jeans, a simple white top, and a light jacket. No makeup except lip balm. Hair down. I didn't want to look like I was trying. Outside, the streets buzzed with early evening energy. Cars honking, people rushing home from work, food carts steaming on corners. New York had this way of making everything feel urgent and unimportant at the same time. The coffee shop was dim, warm, and smelled like toasted hazelnut. I spotted him sitting near the window, hunched slightly, hands clasped like he was praying. He looked older, more tired. His hair was shorter, his jaw was less sharp. His eyes, God, his eyes still held that same storm I once fell for. I paused before approaching him. Just a second, just long enough to remember who I was now. Then I walked over. He looked up and froze. For a moment, everything in the room disappeared for him. I could see it in his face. He whispered my name, barely audible. Linda. I nodded, slid into the seat across from him, and folded my hands in my lap. He stared for a long time, his eyes scanning my face like he was trying to memorize it all over again. You look different, he said quietly. I am different. That seemed to hit him. He inhaled shakily, then finally spoke. I'm sorry. I didn't respond. I just waited. He swallowed hard. I know I don't deserve your time. I know I don't deserve anything from you. But I had to see you. His voice cracked slightly, something he used to do whenever he wanted sympathy. The old me would have reached across the table, touched his hand, told him it was okay. But the new me didn't move. I left because I was scared, he said. I panicked. I felt like I wasn't enough for you. I stared at him. Then, why didn't you just say that? He looked down. I didn't know how. That's not an excuse, I said softly. I know. He dragged a hand through his hair, looking exhausted. When I left, I thought I was doing the right thing. I told myself disappearing would hurt you less than watching me fail. My throat tightened, but not with sadness. With anger I'd buried long ago. You didn't disappear to protect me, I said. You disappeared because it was easier for you. He flinched, and for once, I didn't feel guilty. I thought about coming back. So many times, he said. But I was embarrassed, ashamed. And then you started posting those videos. He paused. I watched every single one. I stiffened. I hadn't expected that. I kept thinking, there she is. The woman I didn't deserve. The woman I hurt. The woman I broke. His voice had softened into something almost fragile. But when you moved here, when you started growing, when people started listening to you, I realized something. He looked straight into my eyes. You're becoming everything I always knew you could be. And I'm the idiot who almost ruined you. I didn't say anything. He continued. I didn't come to ask for you back. I'm not that delusional. He paused. I came because I needed to say the words I should have said years ago. His eyes glistened. You didn't deserve the way I treated you. You didn't deserve to feel small, or controlled, or silenced. You deserved love. Real love. And I failed you. It was strange, hearing the apology I once cried for. hearing the words that would have saved me 3 years of heartbreak. But instead of relief, I felt numb. I looked at him, but all I saw was the ghost of a girl I used to be. A girl who stayed too long, loved too hard, lost too much. "You hurt me," I said quietly. His eyes dropped. "I know. You made me feel like I wasn't enough. I know. You made me lose myself." He nodded, eyes glossy. "And the worst part?" I continued. "You left like I meant nothing. You vanished like 3 years of my life were disposable." His jaw trembled. "I'm sorry." I took a breath. "I'm not the same woman you left behind. I can see that. I don't want you back." He nodded again. I figured. "But I do appreciate the apology." He swallowed hard. "I'm happy you're doing well," he whispered. "Truly. You deserve it all." I stood. He stood too. For a moment, we just looked at each other. Not as lovers, not as enemies, just as two people who shared a chapter but weren't meant to share a lifetime. Then I said the words that closed that chapter forever. "We're done, Daniel. For good. But thank you for coming." He exhaled shakily, nodded once, and whispered, "Goodbye, Linda." I walked out of the coffee shop without looking back. And for the first time, the very first time since he left me, the air felt easier to breathe. As I stepped into the cool evening breeze, I realized something powerful. Closure doesn't heal you. You heal you. And I had healed myself long before he ever returned. I walked down the busy Manhattan street, my heart light, my steps steady, my future wide open. The world felt big and possible again, and I felt like I was finally stepping into the woman I was always meant to become. But I had no idea that something else, something huge, unexpected, beautiful, and terrifying, was about to enter my life. Something that would change everything. I thought that after seeing Daniel again, the universe would give me a moment to breathe, a pause, a break, a little quiet after all that emotional noise. But the universe has a funny way of shaking your life the moment you think you've finally found your balance. I remember walking back home that evening, the city glowing with yellow lights, the air crisp but gentle. I stopped at a street vendor and grabbed a warm pretzel, even though I wasn't hungry. I think my hands just needed something to hold, something real, something simple. By the time I reached my apartment, my mind felt like it had run a marathon. I took off my jacket, kicked off my shoes, and collapsed onto the couch. I didn't cry. I didn't shake. I didn't even replay the conversation with Daniel in my head. I just sat. For the first time in years, the past didn't feel heavy anymore. It just felt done. I didn't realize I had fallen asleep until my phone buzzed loudly under my leg. I woke up, groggy, confused, and squinting at the screen. It wasn't Daniel this time. It was my friend Claire from work. "Girl, are you home?" I texted back, "Yeah, why?" Her reply came instantly. "Call me. Now." I groaned, sat up, rubbed my eyes, and hit the call button. She answered on the first ring, practically screaming in my ear. "Linda, why are you not online? Your video is going crazy." I blinked. "What video?" "The one you posted yesterday. The one about healing. It's blowing up everywhere." I sat there, still half asleep, brushing hair out of my face. "What do you mean blowing up?" "I mean it's all over Twitter. It's trending on TikTok. People are stitching it, sharing it, duetting it. Girl, your subscriber count is climbing like a rocket." I felt my heart skip. "You're joking. Get on your laptop and see for yourself." I jumped off the couch, grabbed my laptop from the table, nearly tripping over the rug, and opened my channel. She wasn't lying. My video one I'd recorded casually, sitting by my window with messy hair and a blanket wrapped around me, was everywhere. The view count was updating so quickly, I could literally watch the numbers rise in real time. 10,000, 15, 25, 38. Thousands of comments poured in, people thanking me, relating to me, saying my words made them feel understood. It didn't feel real. It felt like a glitch in the matrix. I scrolled faster, my fingers shaking. "I think you're going viral," Claire said, sounding breathless herself. I don't understand," I whispered. You hit something emotional, something universal. People felt it, Linda. I didn't speak. I just stared at my screen, watching more comments flood in. And then my jaw dropped. A famous relationship coach, someone with over 2 million followers on Instagram, had reposted a clip of my video. A well-known YouTuber had stitched it. An influencer tweeted about me. I could feel my pulse in my throat. Claire, I whispered, what is happening? You're happening, she said. This is your moment. My moment. The phrase felt electric. After we hung up, I sat in silence, staring at the glowing screen, the city lights reflecting in my window. I thought of all the nights I cried myself to sleep, all the mornings I forced myself out of bed, all the days I felt invisible, unheard, unloved. Now thousands of strangers were thanking me for speaking, for being honest, for surviving. I didn't sleep that night. I stayed awake, refreshing the page, watching the numbers climb, reading comments from women in Ghana, Canada, India, Brazil, women saying things like, "Thank you for telling my story. I needed this. I don't feel alone anymore." And the crazy part? This happened on the same day Daniel resurfaced. Life really does have a twisted sense of timing. By morning, I had gained 30,000 new subscribers. 30,000. In one night, I showered, made coffee, sat on my balcony, and stared at my phone, waiting for the numbers to stop rising. But they didn't. They kept climbing. My video was now being shared by bigger accounts, brands, therapists, podcasters. I got emails from people wanting to interview me, collaborate with me, feature me. It was overwhelming, exciting, terrifying, beautiful. But then, something happened that shook me even more. Around noon, I got a message from an account I didn't recognize, but it had a blue checkmark, someone with a massive following. "Hey, Linda, I came across your video. I think you're incredibly talented. I'd love to talk to you about an opportunity." I clicked on the profile, and my jaw dropped again. This wasn't just some influencer. This was him, the man whose work I had admired for years, the man whose books I read, the man whose podcast I listened to every morning on my way to work, the man who built an empire out of helping people navigate love and healing. His name, Ethan Ross. Ethan Ross messaged me. I read the message 10 times, convinced I was hallucinating from lack of sleep. I wanted to respond instantly, but my fingers froze. What was I supposed to say? "Oh my God, I'm obsessed with you"? "Hello, sir, thank you, I love you"? "Are you sure you meant to message me"? I deleted 7 drafts, then finally wrote, "Hi, Ethan, thank you so much for reaching out. I'm honored. What opportunity are you referring to?" He replied less than a minute later. "I'm hosting a live panel next month in Los Angeles about healing, personal growth, and the impact of storytelling. I think you'd be an incredible addition." I stared at the message, mouth open. A live panel? In LA? With him? Me? I responded, trying to act calm even though my soul was doing backflips. "That sounds amazing. I'd love to hear more." He sent a longer message about logistics, travel, accommodations. Everything sounded professional, organized, legitimate. Then he added, "I watched your video 3 times. You have a voice people need." That sentence did something to me, something deep, something grounding, because, for so long, Daniel made me feel voiceless, invisible, unimportant. Now a man whose work shaped thousands of lives was telling me my voice mattered. I closed my phone and covered my face with my hands. I wanted to cry. Not from sadness, from disbelief, from gratitude, from finally feeling seen. I ended up pacing around my apartment for 20 minutes, trying to process it all. My heart was racing. My mind was spinning. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. And then my phone buzzed again. It was my mother. "Linda, I saw your video on Facebook. Everyone is sharing it. Your auntie called me this morning, screaming that you're famous now." I laughed so hard I actually snorted. "I'm not famous, Mom." "Well, people know your name." She spent the next 10 minutes bragging about how she always knew I'd be someone. She told me she printed out a screenshot of my video and put it on the fridge. I told her that was embarrassing. She said she didn't care. It was comforting, grounding, warm, a reminder of where I came from. But after I hung up, things got even crazier. My phone started blowing up non-stop notifications. Emails, tags, messages from people I hadn't spoken to in years. Even some coworkers I barely knew approached me at the office with wide eyes. "Linda, I saw your video. Girl, you're amazing." But as exciting as all that was, something else was happening too. Something quiet, subtle, easy to miss. My ex, Daniel, was watching everything. Not directly, not by message, not by comment, but I could feel it. You know that strange intuition you get when someone from your past suddenly pays attention to your life again? That sudden awareness, that strange lingering presence. I could sense he had seen everything, and I wasn't wrong. Later that evening, right when I finished replying to an overwhelming number of supportive messages, my phone buzzed again. It was him. "Congratulations. I saw your video. You're incredible." I stared at the message without reacting. Not angry, not flattered, just aware. I typed, "Thank you." Then I put my phone down and walked away. No more conversation. No more emotional openings. No more doors left half-cracked. That part of my life was over. And the universe made sure I understood that. Because over the next few days, things only escalated. My subscriber count hit 100,000. Then 150,000. Then 200,000. I was being invited to podcasts, panels, interviews. People were sending me heartfelt stories, asking for advice, begging for more content. Everywhere I looked, my face was popping up. And it wasn't scary the way I thought it might be. It felt right. Like I had stepped into something that had always been waiting for me. One night, after a long day of filming and answering emails, I sat on my balcony with a blanket around my shoulders and watched the city lights flicker. The breeze was cool. My tea was warm, and for the first time since moving to New York, I felt settled. Not lost. Not broken. Not healing. Settled. That's when Claire texted me. "Girl, the panel in LA? They just announced the lineup. You're officially listed." I opened the link, and my breath caught in my throat. There it was. My name. Right below Ethan Ross, on a real promotional poster. I sat back in my chair, stunned. Not because I didn't think I deserved to be there, but because the girl I used to be would have never believed this could happen. The girl who cried on the bathroom floor. The girl who begged a man for love. The girl who dimmed her light so he wouldn't feel insecure. The girl who thought she was replaceable, forgettable, ordinary. She never would have imagined being invited to speak on a stage in front of thousands. But I wasn't that girl anymore. A new chapter was unfolding, loud, bright, unignorable, and it was only the beginning. Yet, even as everything soared, my career, my confidence, my audience, something else was coming. Something quieter, something unexpected, something emotional, something that would test everything I thought I understood about love, healing, and myself. Because going global wasn't just about the world seeing me. It was also about the world bringing someone new into my life. Someone who would change my heart in ways I didn't see coming. The weeks leading up to the LA panel felt unreal. Half the time it felt like I was living someone else's life, like I had slipped into a version of myself I hadn't earned yet. The other half of the time, it felt like I had finally stepped into the woman I was supposed to be all along. And yet, even with all the excitement, something in me felt strangely calm. Not numb, not detached, just centered. Every day, I woke up before my alarm, made coffee, sat near my window, and reflected on the past few years. How everything I thought would break me had somehow become the very thing that built me. My apartment felt different lately too. The sunlight seemed brighter. The space felt warmer. Even the streets outside felt like they welcomed me instead of swallowing me whole. One evening, while I was recording another video, one about rediscovering yourself, after heartbreak, Claire called me again without warning. "Pack your bags," she screamed the moment I answered. "For what?" I laughed. "For LA, obviously. You leave in 3 days. 3 days. I had known the date. I had seen the email. "I don't think I'm ready," I admitted. "You're beyond ready," Claire said. "You've been ready since the day you survived that breakup." I didn't reply right away. Her words settled into me like warm tea. After we hung up, I opened my closet and started pulling out clothes. Jeans, jackets, dresses, the one blazer I owned, even though I rarely wore it. My floor quickly turned into a fabric battlefield. At some point, I sat on my bed and just stared at the mess. Not overwhelmed, just emotional. How did I get here? How did this happen? But the truth whispered quietly in the back of my mind. It happened because I didn't give up on myself. The next few days passed in a blur of emails, confirmations, and last-minute preparations. The panel organizers booked my flight, my hotel, even a driver to pick me up from the airport. Every email felt surreal. Every detail made the event feel bigger. Before I knew it, it was the morning of my flight. I arrived way too early, as usual. Airports always make me oddly sentimental. The hum of people coming and going, the distant announcements, the rolling suitcases, the smell of overpriced coffee. I sat by my gate, clutching my tote bag, feeling the familiar mixture of excitement and fear settling into my stomach. The last time I had felt this level of emotional intensity was when Daniel left me. But this time, it wasn't heartbreak. It was growth. When the plane finally took off, I pressed my forehead against the window and watched the city shrink beneath me. New York looked small from up here, almost fragile, almost peaceful. For the first time, I didn't look back at it with heaviness. I looked back with gratitude. The flight to LA felt long but pleasant. I tried to sleep but couldn't. My mind kept drifting. What would the panel be like? What would I say? What if I froze? What if I stumbled? What if I said something stupid? But the biggest question was one I didn't want to admit out loud. What would it be like meeting Ethan Ross in person? I had admired him for years, followed his work, listened to his voice, watched his videos. Now, I was going to be on the same stage as him. It didn't feel real. When the plane landed, I felt a sudden rush of nerves. LA smelled different, warm, oceanic, soft. Even the sky looked different, bigger, brighter, more open. A driver greeted me with a small sign that said my name, and I laughed because it felt like something out of a movie. The drive to the hotel took about 40 minutes. Palm trees lined the streets like tall, lazy guardians. Buildings felt wider, more spread out, less frantic than New York. My hotel room overlooked the city golden light, soft hills, slow traffic. I stood by the window for a long time, taking it all in. I ordered room service, washed my face, sat on the bed, and tried to breathe through the overwhelming reality of where I was. The panel was scheduled for the next afternoon. That night, I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I imagined myself on that stage. Not failing, just existing there, present, seen. By morning, I was anxious and excited in equal measure. I chose a simple outfit, a black blouse, fitted trousers, and light makeup. I wanted to look like myself, not like someone I was pretending to be. A car picked me up and took me to the event venue. An elegant, modern building with tall glass windows that reflected the sky. I stepped inside, heart pounding, palms sweating, trying to stay grounded. A woman with a headset approached me. "Hi, you must be Linda. We're so excited to have you." I tried to smile without looking like I was dying inside. She guided me to the backstage area where the other panelists were gathering. I recognized one instantly, someone I'd seen on TikTok 100 times. Another was a therapist who had written books I owned. They all looked calm, collected, professional. And then, Ethan walked in. He looked just like he did online, but more real, more grounded, more human. He wore a simple dark shirt, sleeves rolled up, no pretense. He had a presence that made the room quiet around him. He spotted me immediately and smiled, warm, genuine, easy. "Linda." My name sounded different coming from him. Warmer, heavier, special. I smiled back, grateful my legs didn't collapse under me. "Hi," I managed. He walked over to me, extending a hand. I shook it, though my fingers trembled slightly. "It's really great to meet you," he said. "Your video, it blew me away. It blew everyone away." I felt my cheeks warm. "Thank you. I didn't expect any of this." That's what makes it powerful, he said. Your honesty is rare. People feel that. We talked for a few minutes, light conversation, but something about it felt natural. He wasn't intimidating the way I thought he'd be. He was focused, kind, grounded. His eyes held a quiet sincerity that made me feel unexpectedly comfortable. When it was finally time to go on stage, my heart thudded so loudly I thought everyone around me could hear it. But when I stepped out and saw the audience, hundreds of people, maybe more, something inside me settled. This wasn't about fear. This was purpose. The lights softened. The room quieted. The moderator introduced each panelist. When he said my name, the audience actually clapped loudly, like they already knew me, already supported me. I inhaled sharply, trying not to get emotional. The panel began with simple questions: how we found our voice, what healing looked like, what advice we'd give someone going through heartbreak. I answered honestly, letting my words flow without overthinking. People nodded. Some wiped tears. Some recorded. But the moment that changed everything was when Ethan turned to me during a discussion about self-worth. He said, "Linda, when I watched your video, I saw a woman who didn't just survive something painful. She transformed because of it. I think people want to know, how did you rebuild yourself after losing so much?" The room went quiet. I swallowed, feeling the weight of every pair of eyes. And then I told the truth. I rebuilt myself by finally realizing that loving someone shouldn't mean losing myself, I said. And once I accepted that, I stopped waiting for closure from someone who didn't care enough to give it. I learned how to love myself the way I hoped he would. Silence. Then, applause, loud, emotional, powerful. I looked at the audience and saw women crying, nodding, holding hands. I felt my chest tighten with something warm and overwhelming. The panel continued, and every time I spoke, I felt myself stepping deeper into my purpose. Words flowed from a place I didn't even know existed. By the time it was over, I felt lighter than I had in years. Backstage, people came up to me, thanking me, hugging me, asking for selfies. It was surreal. Then, Ethan approached again. "You were incredible," he said, and his voice held this soft amazement that made my heart flutter in a way I wasn't prepared for. "Thank you." I was terrified. "You didn't look terrified. You looked powerful." The way he said it made my breath catch. We talked a little more, walked through the backstage hallway together, and eventually ended up standing near the exit where the sunlight streamed in. He hesitated a moment, then said quietly, "I'd like to talk more, if you're free later." My heart did something I couldn't control, a soft, nervous leap. "I'm free," I said. He smiled, and there was something warm behind it. Something unexpected. Something that made my stomach flutter. "Good," he said. "I'll text you the details." It wasn't a date. Not officially. Not obviously. But there was something in his voice, something curious, gentle, intentional, that told me this wasn't just professional interest. And I wasn't sure if I was ready for whatever that meant. But I was sure of one thing. My heart wasn't the same heart Daniel broke. It was stronger, wiser, more open, more grounded. And for the first time in a long time, I felt ready to see where this new path might lead. What I didn't know, what I couldn't possibly know, was that this moment, this simple exchange in a sunlit hallway, was the beginning of something that would shift my entire life in ways I never imagined. Something that would test me, challenge me, heal me, change me. Someone who would make going global feel like just the beginning. After the panel ended, my entire body felt like it was humming, not shaking, not overwhelmed, just humming, like something inside me had been switched on. People always talk about life-changing moments, like they're dramatic or loud. But this one was quiet, deep, warm, like being seen for the first time in years. I went back to my hotel room, kicked off my shoes, and collapsed on the bed. I stared at the ceiling, trying to replay everything that had happened. But it felt like too much to process all at once. I kept hearing the audience clapping, kept seeing their faces, kept replaying the soft, intentional way Ethan had looked at me. I wasn't imagining it. I wasn't reading into it. There had been something there, curiosity, admiration, A spark I wasn't ready to name yet. My phone buzzed. I sat up quickly, wondering if it was Claire or my mother, but when I looked at the screen, my breath paused. It was him. Ethan. Still free tonight? My heart did an ungraceful flip. I typed back, yes. He replied immediately, great. There's a restaurant near your hotel with outdoor seating and an amazing view. I can meet you there at 7? I checked the time. It was 5:42 p.m. Enough time to panic, shower, eat a snack, panic again, change outfits 3 times, and then panic one more time for good measure. I typed, 7 works. Then I put my phone down and stared at it like it was about to explode. This wasn't a date. Not officially. Not clearly. But the way my stomach fluttered, that wasn't professional. I took a deep breath, stood up, and walked to the bathroom to splash cold water on my face. I grabbed my toiletry bag, turned on the shower, and tried to mentally calm myself. This was just a conversation. Just 2 people talking. 2 creators. 2 professionals. But deep down, I knew the truth. I wanted him to see me, not just as a speaker, not just as a woman who went viral, but as me. When I finished showering, I wrapped myself in a towel and stood in front of the mirror, examining my reflection. My hair always curled differently in humid climates, and LA's warmth had given it a soft, wild texture. My cheeks were still slightly flushed from the panel. My eyes looked brighter than usual. I looked happy. Not perfect, not flawless, just happy. And that felt better than beautiful. I put on a simple outfit, a soft, cream-colored blouse that fell off one shoulder slightly and black-fitted pants. I added small hoop earrings and a light gloss on my lips. Nothing dramatic. Nothing flashy. Just something that felt like me. By the time I was ready, it was 6:48 p.m. The restaurant was a short walk away, tucked 5 blocks down a wide street lined with palm trees that swayed lazily in the late evening breeze. The sky was streaked with soft oranges and pinks. The air smelled faintly of jasmine and ocean salt. When I reached the restaurant, the host greeted me warmly and guided me to a small outdoor table overlooking the glowing city below. And then I saw him, walking toward me. The soft golden hour light hit him in a way that made his presence feel calm yet striking. He wore a simple charcoal shirt and dark jeans, but somehow he looked elegant. Effortlessly so. He smiled when he saw me, gentle, slow, intentional. "Linda," he said. "Hi," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. We sat across from each other, the soft glow of the patio lights making the whole space feel intimate and warm. A breeze brushed my hair across my cheek, and he laughed quietly. "Lay Wind likes making an entrance," he said. I smiled. Apparently. When the waiter brought water, I took a sip to steady myself. But Ethan didn't make it awkward. He eased into conversation like he'd known me longer than a few hours. "I wanted to say again," he began softly, "you were incredible today. The authenticity you brought. Most people spend years trying to find that. I felt my heart soften. Thank you. That means more than you know." He shook his head. "No, it means more than you know. You're the kind of person who speaks from the heart without trying to craft something perfect. People feel that immediately." I looked down for a moment, not out of shyness, but because hearing something so sincere felt unusual, rare, safe. We talked about the panel for a while, our favorite moments, the questions asked, the reactions from the audience. But eventually, the conversation drifted into deeper territory. "So," he said, leaning slightly forward, "in your video, when you said you had to rebuild yourself after losing everything, that line really hit me. What did rebuilding yourself look like?" I exhaled slowly. This wasn't small talk. This wasn't flirting. This was soul-level conversation. I looked out at the city for a moment before answering. Rebuilding myself meant learning who I was, without someone telling me. I had spent so much time trying to be enough for someone who never wanted me to be whole. When he left, I felt like my identity left with him, so I had to start from scratch. He listened without interrupting, really listened. I continued. "I learned to enjoy my own company. I learned to sit with silence without fearing it. I learned to trust myself again. And I learned that loving someone shouldn't cost me my sense of self-worth. He nodded slowly. Like every word I said was a puzzle piece he wanted to understand. That makes a lot of sense, he said quietly. A lot of people confuse love with sacrifice. They think losing themselves is romantic. It's not. I laughed softly. It's emotional suicide. He smiled. Exactly. We talked for over an hour about love, healing, work, passions, the things that shaped us. I learned he grew up in a small town, that he struggled with confidence when he was younger, that his success wasn't accidental. It was built from years of pain, introspection, and discipline. The more he spoke, the more I felt something shift inside me. Not infatuation, not obsession, just connection. Real connection. Gentle, intentional, steady. At one point, he asked me something that made me pause. What did you want your life to look like before all the heartbreak? It was such a simple question, but no one had asked me that in years. I took a slow breath. I wanted peace, I said. Not perfection. Not control. Just peace. The kind where you wake up and feel like your heart isn't at war with itself. He leaned back, eyes softening. And do you feel like you have that now? I thought about it. About the woman I was a year ago, 6 months ago, 3 months ago. And I realized something. Yes, I said. I think I'm finally starting to. He smiled, a slow, warm smile that made my chest tighten. I'm glad, he said softly. You deserve it. A silence settled between us. Not awkward, not heavy, just warm, comfortable. Eventually, the waiter came by with the bill, which Ethan reached for without hesitation. I protested half-heartedly, but he just shook his head. I invited you, he said. Let me. We stood up together, and he walked me out onto the sidewalk. The air was cooler now, the city glowing under the night sky. People walked by, laughing, chatting, living their own little stories. But in that moment, it felt like the world had narrowed down to just the two of us. We stood there for a moment, close enough to feel each other's warmth but not touching. Thank you, I said quietly. For tonight. And for believing in me. He held my gaze for a moment. Eyes gentle. It's not belief, he said softly. It's recognition. Something about that sentence went straight to my soul. Recognition. Like he saw something in me I hadn't seen in myself yet. Like he understood a part of me no one else had noticed. He didn't move closer. Didn't try anything. Didn't cross any boundaries. He just gave me a warm, quiet smile and said, Get some rest, Linda. Tomorrow's a big day. I nodded. Good night, Ethan. Good night. I walked back to my hotel, feeling like the world had shifted half an inch. Not dramatically, not suddenly, but meaningfully. When I got to my room, I sat on the bed and closed my eyes for a moment, letting myself lean back into the softness of the sheets. I played the night over in my head, not obsessively, just gently, like revisiting a song that made you feel something warm. And somewhere deep inside me, something settled. Not the feeling of falling, not the feeling of losing myself, but the quiet, cautious feeling of possibility. The kind that whispers instead of shouts. The kind that grows slowly, steady, warm. I didn't know what would come next. I didn't know what this connection meant. I didn't know where any of it would lead. All I knew was this. For the first time in years, I wasn't afraid of what came next. And that was a different kind of healing altogether. What I didn't know, what I couldn't yet imagine, was that this was only the beginning of a shift so profound. It would force me to confront everything I thought I knew about love, everything I thought I wanted, everything I believed about myself. Because when the heart finally heals, it doesn't just open, it transforms. The next morning, sunlight pushed through the thin curtains in my hotel room. It wasn't dramatic, just soft enough to warm the sheets and make me blink awake slowly. For a moment, I forgot where I was. The room felt unfamiliar, but the quiet, settled feeling inside me. It felt new, too. I sat up, pulled my knees to my chest, and let myself breathe in the calm. There was a time when my mornings felt heavy, when waking up meant remembering everything that hurt. But now, for the first time in a long time, the first emotion I felt wasn't sadness. It was anticipation. Not for him, not for the conference, not for attention, but for me. After getting ready, I headed downstairs for breakfast. The lounge was filled with the gentle buzz of people chatting, dishes clinking, and someone laughing too loudly in the corner. I grabbed a small plate of fruit and found a quiet table near the window. I was mid-bite when my phone buzzed. A message from Claire. "You lit up the entire internet yesterday." I frowned, confused. I opened the attached link and nearly choked on a blueberry. There it was, a clip of my panel speech, sitting at nearly 2 million views overnight. Comments flooding beneath it, people stitching it, duets, reposts, tweets, quotes, and all of them saying the same thing. She said what I've been scared to say. I felt this in my bones. I needed this more than she knows. My chest tightened not with fear, but with something like gratitude and disbelief blending together. I typed back to Claire, "This is insane." She responded, "You deserve all of this. Don't shrink. Lean into it." I stared at her message for a long moment. Lean into it? Lean into being seen. Lean into being enough. Something in that felt like a turning point. I put the phone down and finished my breakfast slowly. I didn't want to rush. I wanted to sit with it, feel it, acknowledge it, because I knew if I didn't honor moments like this, I'd overlook how far I'd come. Later that morning, I headed to the final day of the conference. The lobby was even busier than before. Camera crews, influencers greeting each other, people carrying iced coffees like trophies. But as soon as I stepped inside, a few attendees recognized me. "Oh my God, it's you," one young woman said, grabbing her friend's arm and pointing. "You're the girl from the panel." Another walked up to me shyly. "Your video saved me. You spoke for all of us." I wasn't used to being a symbol. I wasn't used to people knowing me without actually knowing me. I wasn't used to strangers looking at me with gratitude instead of pity. But I didn't shrink. I smiled softly and thanked them, spoke with each one, hugged the ones who asked for it. Their stories were raw, beautiful, heavy, and hopeful all at once. By noon, my schedule was full. A podcast interview, a behind-the-scenes video recording, a meeting with a woman who ran a content network. Every single person wanted to hear more from me. To my surprise, I didn't feel overwhelmed. I felt ready, but somewhere deep inside me, a thought lingered quietly. Where was Ethan? I tried not to think about it too much, but my mind kept drifting back to his calm voice, his gentle attention, the way he seemed to understand me without trying. I half expected him to show up around every corner, but he didn't. Not during interviews, not during the small workshops, not during lunch. By the time late afternoon rolled around, I wondered if maybe last night had just been one of those beautiful, accidental moments. The kind that didn't need follow-up or definition. And I told myself that was okay. At around 4 p.m., I stepped outside of the building to get some air. The sun was still bright, painting everything in sharp golden light. I leaned against a railing and closed my eyes. That's when I heard footsteps approaching. I opened my eyes slowly, and there he was, Ethan. He looked slightly out of breath, as if he'd been moving quickly through the crowd to find me. "There you are," he said, relief washing through his voice. My heart did something quiet and warm in my chest. "I figured you were busy today," I said. He smiled, stepping closer, not invading my space, just finding the right distance. I was. But I kept thinking about last night, and I didn't want the day to end without talking to you again. Something about the way he said that made my stomach flutter, not dramatically, but softly, like my body knew something my mind wasn't ready to admit. "How was your day?" he asked. "Overwhelming," I said with a laugh. "The panel clip is everywhere." "I saw," he said. "And I'm not surprised. What you said, it connected with people. You're doing something real, Linda." His sincerity made me feel warm in a way that wasn't about romance. It was about being understood. We walked together down the street, not with a destination in mind, but simply letting the movement ease the day out of our bones. The city around us hummed cars, footsteps, the occasional shout across the road, but somehow it all felt distant, muted. "I want to ask you something," he said after a few minutes. "Okay. Do you ever think about what your life would look like if you never went through what you did?" I thought about it. Then I nodded slowly. "Sometimes. But every time I imagine that alternate version of myself, she feels weaker, less layered, less aware. I don't think she would have understood her worth the way I do now." He smiled softly. "Exactly. Pain doesn't make you valuable, but it does strip away illusions." We walked a few more steps. "Who are you now?" he asked gently. It was a simple question, but it cracked something open inside me. I exhaled. "I'm someone who knows she meant more than her heartbreak. Someone who knows love shouldn't erase her. Someone who refuses to settle for someone who only wants me in pieces." He looked at me with something like admiration. "Good. You're seeing yourself the way you should be seen." For the first time, I didn't look away. I held his gaze. "So, Ethan," I said softly, "who are you now?" He paused, thought about it, then answered with that unfiltered honesty of his. "I'm someone who stopped pretending he didn't want more than surface-level connections. Someone who's tired of being careful with his heart. Someone who wants something real, even if it scares him." The last part hung in the air. I swallowed, feeling the weight of his words not heavy, just meaningful. We walked back toward the hotel slowly, as the sun started lowering behind the buildings. The sky deepened into warm oranges and purples, and a soft breeze brushed across my skin. And then he stopped walking. I took one extra step before realizing he wasn't beside me anymore. I turned around. He looked at me with that same quiet intensity I'd felt the night before. "Linda," he said softly, "I don't want to rush anything. I don't want to assume anything. And I don't want to interfere with your healing. But I need you to know something." I waited. "I like you," he said gently. "Not because you're strong, or inspiring, or talented. Those things matter. But I like you because you're human, because you feel deeply, because you speak with your whole heart, because you're you." A soft wind carried the words between us. He continued, "I don't expect anything from you. Not now. Not later. I just want to be someone in your life who supports you, respects you, and maybe, if the timing is right, becomes something more." I didn't speak right away. I didn't trust my voice. My heart wasn't racing. It wasn't panicking. It wasn't drowning. It was steady, warm, present, and that was the difference. Finally, after a long moment, I said quietly, "You're not interfering with my healing. If anything, you're showing me what healthy connection looks like." He smiled, not triumphant, not expectant, just relieved. We walked the remaining distance back to the hotel together, and when we reached the entrance, he paused again. "Can I see you tonight?" he asked. I nodded. "Yeah, I'd like that." "Dinner?" he asked. "How about?" I hesitated, then smiled. His eyes softened even more. "Perfect." We went our separate ways for a few hours to rest and change. When I met him later in the lobby, he was dressed casually again, but his presence felt even gentler, like he didn't want to overwhelm the night with expectations. We took an Uber to the beach. The sky was dark, the waves quiet. Soft lights from the pier stretched across the water like glittering threads. We walked barefoot along the sand, the cool grains shifting beneath each step. Neither of us spoke for a while. It wasn't silence. It was peace. "At some point," I whispered, "you know, for a long time, I thought no one would ever love me without breaking me." He stopped walking. "Linda," he said, stepping closer, "love doesn't break you. People who don't know how to love properly do." Something inside me loosened. Something long, tangled, painful. "And what about you?" I whispered. He shook his head softly. "I don't want to break you. I want to understand you." My breath caught, not in fear, but in recognition. We stood there, the ocean brushing the shore, the night wrapping around us like a quiet blanket, and he didn't reach for me. He didn't try to hold my hand. He didn't make a move. He just waited, gave me space, let me choose. So I took one small step forward, then another, until we were close enough that I could feel the warmth of him mixing with the coolness of the breeze. I reached out and gently took his hand. He exhaled, like he'd been holding his breath, and we just stood there, hands intertwined, hearts steady, no pressure, no rush, just two people who had healed enough to see something real in each other. For the first time in years, I felt safe, not because someone promised not to leave, not because someone needed me, not because I feared losing them, but because I finally chose someone from a place of growth, not pain. The next morning, the conference ended. People went home. Luggage rolled across the lobby. Friendships formed. Deals were made. Pictures were taken. But something in me felt different as I packed my suitcase. I wasn't leaving LA with heartbreak. I wasn't leaving with confusion. I wasn't leaving with regret. I was leaving with clarity, with possibility, with a new version of myself I didn't even know I was becoming. When I headed downstairs to check out, Ethan was waiting near the doors. He didn't rush toward me. He didn't overwhelm the moment. He just smiled. "You heading to the airport?" he asked. "Yeah. I can ride with you," he offered gently. "If you want." I nodded. "I want." In the car, we talked about life, fear, timing, growth, and everything that existed in the quiet spaces of the heart. When we finally reached the terminal, he walked me as far as security would allow. We stood there, the crowd moving around us, but it felt like we were in our own small world. "Linda," he said softly, "I don't want this to be the end." "It's not," I whispered. "How do you know?" he asked. I smiled. "Because I finally know my worth. And whoever enters my life now, they're doing it through the front door, not through cracks in my self-esteem. And you," I squeezed his hand, "you came through the right way." He laughed softly, eyes warm. "I'll see you soon," he said. "And you'll hear from me," I replied. We didn't kiss. We didn't rush. We didn't force the moment. We left it open, natural, a promise without words. When I walked away, my heart didn't ache. It expanded, because I understood something I never understood before. People who wanted me gone did me a favor. They created space for everything I was meant to become. They cleared the path for the woman I was always meant to be. They tried to break me, but all they did was awaken me. I wasn't going global because of revenge. I wasn't rising to prove someone wrong. I wasn't healing to spite anyone. I was rising because I remembered who I was. Because my voice had meaning. Because my story had purpose. Because my heart had rebuilt itself in a way no one could undo. From heartbreak to healing. From silence to recognition. From being underestimated to becoming unstoppable. They wanted me gone. But here I am, seen, strong, loved, and finally, home within myself. Thanks for watching today. Please like, comment, and share. Don't forget to subscribe so you will be the first to get notifications each time I upload new stories.